happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am Dial here with another movie review. Today, we're going to be talking about the newest installment of the Ghostbusters franchise, Frozen Empire. So, those of you who don't know, I have reviewed all the previous Ghostbusters films, talked about the original, Ghostbusters 2, Ghostbusters 2016, and Ghostbusters Afterlife. If you guys haven't seen my reviews for those, check out my channel. I have a playlist and it's called Ghostbusters. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into Frozen Empire. So I'm not going to mince words with you guys. The Ghostbusters franchise has been a bit hit or miss for me. As for a lot of people, I love the original Ghostbusters. It's one of my favorite films. It's such a unique concept when the time it came out. And overall, it was just a lot of fun. I had a blast with the original movie. However, I was very disappointed with the stuff that came after. I was not a fan of Ghostbusters 2. I felt like it was a lazy rehash of the original movie. And then Ghostbusters 2016 came out and they tried to reboot the whole thing with all women. And I wasn't a big fan of that. But it was not because it was all women being, the main characters. It's the fact that the character development wasn't very good. They once again were rehashing stuff from the original, and the comedy was extremely forced in that. So at that point, I almost considered the Ghostbusters franchise dead because they weren't able to find what was good about the original, and it just felt like they could never get it right. However, when they released Ghostbusters Afterlife, I was pleasantly surprised with that. That was probably the best sequel that they made to Ghostbusters. And it was great that Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan, who did the original two movies, was able to come in and do a sequel to Ghostbusters. And not only that, it was such a good love letter to not only the original two movies, but it was also a great love letter to Harold Ramis, who passed away and wasn't able to be in the film. So they did a good job honoring him. But I love the new characters that they introduced. I love that we followed Egon's granddaughter, Phoebe. All of that I thought was really, really good. So as far as them doing a continuation, doing more sequels coming off of that, I was in for it, because they did such a good job with Afterlife. I was definitely invested in what they were going to do next. And from the marketing we saw from Frozen Empire, it looked like that was exactly that. They were back in New York. They were in the firehouse. They were doing the regular ghost busting stuff, and that's stuff that I've been wanting to see. And the villain looked really, really interesting. So all around, it looked like another fun Ghostbusters film. However, when this movie first was getting its reviews, to my surprise, it was getting poor reception. I think on Rotten Tomatoes, it has like a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes and then a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. And yeah, people weren't a big fan of this. And most of the criticisms I've been hearing is that they're relying too much on the nostalgia in this. Like there's too many Easter eggs and callbacks and catchphrases that they put in here, and like they felt like it was taken away from the story. And overall, they just felt like it wasn't as interesting as Afterlife, and that kind of bummed me out at first. I'm not gonna lie, because like the unfortunately, Jason Reitman did not come back and do Frozen Empire. They got Gil Keenan, who was one of the writers of Afterlife, and he also directed Monster House. So I thought we would have something good here, because it's a similar team that worked on Afterlife. So I don't know. I was a bit disappointed from the reviews, but regardless, I was going in with an open mind. I still decided to see it opening weekend because I'm still invested in these new characters that they introduced. And after watching it, I really don't understand why it's getting poor reviews. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was good. Now, do I think this is the best in the franchise? No, I don't. Though I didn't expect that to be the best in the franchise. And Ghostbusters Afterlife wasn't the best in the franchise, but I thought this was a solid continuation coming off of Afterlife. I really don't understand where the hate is with this movie. I don't. One of the things that I enjoyed the most about this film is that it's an original story, like from start to finish. Like they weren't trying to rehash stuff that came before. This, for the first time ever seeing a sequel, they weren't trying to just copy everything from the original movie. Even with Afterlife, they did have an original story for like the first three quarters of the film. But when we started getting to the climax, that's when they started to rely too much on the nostalgia there, and they were pretty much treading the same beats from when the original four were facing off against Gozer. You know, they pretty much copied that from the original movie and Afterlife. So I don't know. It's like it's a surprise that I'm hearing that people think the nostalgia was too much in this, because in my opinion, I felt like the callbacks and Easter eggs in here they weren't as distracting as they were in Afterlife. Because even though I did like Afterlife, there were I think in that they relied a little bit more on the nostalgia than they did with Frozen Empire. It was just straight up they were just copying lines and copying staging and all that. I didn't feel that as much in Frozen Empire. Like this actually felt like new territory. As I said before, they're back in New York. They're full on being the Ghostbusters. They have new arsenals to their, ghost hunting equipment. Like this is stuff that I've been wanting to see them upgrading their artillery. They did do that in 2016, having new weapons and stuff like that. I did like that in 2016, though I like that they're doing this once again in Frozen Empire. Like we're seeing new weapons, new art, you know, stuff that they're using to hunt ghosts, new traps. So I thought all that stuff was really cool, and it's like they have a base of operations, a laboratory where they're keeping all the different ghosts and doing experiments and studying them. It's like all this stuff is great, and it's like it's cool that Winston is like funding all of this and creating an actual ghost corporation. And it's ironic because like the production company that's working on the Ghostbusters films with Sony, they actually call it Ghost Corps. So Ghostbusters has their own production studio. So that's very interesting. But like this is all the stuff that I've been wanting to see. What I also noticed about this film is that you could tell that they are taking some inspiration and homages from the original animated shows like The Real Ghostbusters or Extreme Ghostbusters. I definitely saw some influences here from not only the gadgets and weapons that they use, but even the designs of the ghosts. I could feel like they're being more creative with the different designs of the ghosts. So that stuff I really, really appreciated. Um, Once again, the characters in here I thought were great. Phoebe, once again, I love Phoebe. She's probably my favorite character in this new cast that we're having for the set of films. Like following her journey from Afterlife and her, growing up and wanting to be a Ghostbuster and her being one of the smartest people there, like all that stuff, and still find time to have her be relatable as a teenager. Just trying to find her place in the world. All that stuff I thought was still really, really good. Paul Rudd is Mr. Gruberson. I thought he was really, really good as well. Like he was funny in Afterlife, and once again, he was funny here. And I like that we're starting to get more of like possibly a father-daughter relationship between him and Phoebe. Like all that stuff is really good. Phoebe's mother, Callie, I thought she was great as well, and it's cool that she was joining along with the Ghostbusters team, helping them. So I thought all that was great. Finn Wolfhard as Trevor. Once again, I thought he was pretty solid. I thought he would have more to do in this, but like it's kind of equal amount of screen time that he had in Afterlife. Now he wasn't pointless, like he still was important, but I just thought I wish that they gave him a little bit more time to develop him as a character, because he just seems to be doing his own thing for a lot of the times. And then as far as Lucky and Podcast, I'm glad that they elevated their roles in here as well. Podcast being an assistant to Ray, I thought that was cool. Like him being his cameraman and with him doing like his like paranormal shows on social media and stuff like that. I thought that was great. And then Lucky pretty much full on training to be a Ghostbuster herself and working in the labs and stuff like that and training with the weapons. So this is stuff that I thought was really, really cool. I really liked all of that. And one of the other criticisms that I hear is that like the first half of the movie felt kind of slow. And I guess I could kind of agree that the pacing did feel a bit slow in the first half. Like I did wish that things picked up a little bit faster, but I was never bored. And I appreciated that the first half that they decided to slow things down a little bit and have us get to know the characters more, because that's what they did in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Because the first half you felt like there was a lot of character development and slow moments, so we could actually follow these characters and actually care about what happens to them. And it's a similar thing here that I liked with that. Um, Another thing that I liked is that, in the previous films, you assume that all the ghosts are bad or evil, But I liked in here that they actually played with the idea that not all ghosts are bad, and possibly you could befriend some of the ghosts. And I thought that was really, really interesting. That's something that they never really dove into in a Ghostbusters film. You just assume all ghosts are monsters, but here they kind of play with the idea that maybe not all ghosts are evil or scary. So that was very, very refreshing to see. I don't think this movie is perfect. I do have some issues here and there. Camille Nanjiani, there's a whole subplot with him that I did not really care for at all. They did try to make him really important when it comes to the main conflict of the movie, but I don't know. It just his character. I just thought it was just Camille just doing his regular comedic stick, and I just didn't care to see that, to be honest. And then another thing, I feel like there are too many characters to follow in here, because we're still trying to put enough focus on the new characters, but then the legacy characters have more of a elevated role in here than they did in Afterlife. Like, everyone is trying to have equal amount of screen time. And while I do appreciate that they're trying to put equal focus on everybody, I feel like there's too many characters to follow, and not everybody is able to get the amount of development that they need. Because like I feel like the legacy characters at this point should be able to take a step back a little bit. Like, they're still trying to treat the legacy characters like they're full on main, like the main protagonist, where it's like, honestly, the main protagonist should be the new characters, and like the legacy characters should be more supporting, but they're all trying to get equal amount of development and screen time, and it's just like, I wouldn't say anybody was lost in the shuffle, but it's just a lot of things to take in at once, and the movie's not even that long. It's less than 2 hours, and there's only so much you can do in less than 2 hours. So that's probably one thing I thought was, that could have been better. But I will say that the legacy characters were handled, I think they were handled better in here than they were in Afterlife, because Afterlife, like, by the time we get to the climax, that's when they start to feel really, really important, and it almost felt like they were there to do like their classic stick from the original films. Like, it did feel like we didn't get that much development with them outside of that. But in this one, I felt like they actually, elevated their characters more. Like, we got a little bit more of a sense of like what did they do outside of ghostbusting, how they moved on with their lives, and there's like some conflict there as well. So, one legacy character I didn't care to see in here was William Atherton, who was Walter in the first movie. The guy that everyone calls says that he has no dick. Like, once again, he's coming in here to try to stop the Ghostbusters, and that's probably the one like nostalgia act in here, which like that was unnecessary. I never understood why people keep trying to shut down the Ghostbusters when they keep having ghost occurrences, and like they're the only ones to stop them, but they're still trying to he's still trying to shut them down. And after all these years, you would think that he would change his ways, like not be as against the Ghostbusters. But nope, it's just he hates them just as much as he did in the original, and that was dumb. But that's probably the only thing. Like, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and even I was happy to see Annie Potts in here. Like, all those legacy characters I thought were very, very good. And as far as the overall, like the main villain of the movie, I forget his name, but like, of course, he's the big ominous figure with the giant horns and the long fingernails, turning the entire city into ice. I really like this villain. I thought he was very menacing. He was very scary. I love his gimmick with the turning everything into ice. He was probably one of the more menacing villains in the Ghostbusters franchise, Um, And like I like that they use practical, the mix of practical and CGI with him. He looks like something out of a Guillermo del Toro movie. Like I really like the main ghost in here. He was awesome. Um, and I also like that this movie actually had some legit scares in here. Like, I wouldn't say that this is a movie made for little kids, because there's still some very scary imagery and like the ghost designs. Some of them look very, very scary. So I don't know if I would take my little kids to see this. But I definitely appreciated that this movie was not afraid to have some jump scares and some creepy stuff going on. Because like I was afraid that this movie was going to go too much into the family friendly or kiddie territory, but no, it actually struck a decent balance. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a good movie, guys. Like I don't really get the hate for this film. If you are a fan of the franchise, and especially if you are a fan of Ghostbusters Afterlife, I don't see why you wouldn't enjoy this film. Like I said, I don't think this is the best one, but I still thought this was a good sequel, and that's really all I can ask for at this point. I want a good Ghostbusters movie. I'm not expecting it to knock my socks off or anything like that, but it was a fun time. It was good. So I definitely recommend seeing this if you haven't seen it already, and I will give Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a B. If they decide to do more after this, I think they should probably do one more sequel, and I think we can end it off at that point. Because I don't see them going too far within this franchise. They probably do because they have a freaking production company, Ghost Corp. So of course they want to make this into a big franchise. But like, I don't really see where they can go from here. One thing that I would probably want to see in another sequel. This probably won't even happen. But like it would be great if they could find a way to get Rick Moranis to come back for a sequel. I know he's retired from acting, so it's most likely he won't come back, but it would be great if we can get him for just one more movie. And then this is probably even more of a shot in the dark, but it would be great if they could find a way to get the Extreme Ghostbusters in live action. Like that would be great. Like to bring them in live action, that I think that will definitely get a lot of fans who like the animated stuff, like to just bring all that together in live action. I think that would be good as well. But those are my thoughts on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How does it compare to the previous Ghostbusters films? Are you excited for them to do more Ghostbusters movies after this point? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. If you guys enjoyed this review, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified on future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Ghostbusters fans, and I will see you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Bustin' makes me feel good.